Byron York, the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner, thinks he's onto something. A lot of anti-Trump headlines, all in the vein of he's authoritarian and the reincarnation of Hitler. Even supposed Republican Liz Cheney thinks so. She's even willing to go third party just to save democracy. How altruistic of her. Well, all these headlines seem to pop up virtually at the same time in clusters. York chalks this up to a collective realization. He argues something similar happened around this time back in 2015, when the political commentary class had a collective realization that then candidate Donald J. Trump could actually win. His campaign wasn't part of some elaborate joke, and so they set out to destroy it. York writes, quote, "Now we are seeing a repeat of the events of late 2015. The Iowa caucuses are 6 weeks away. Trump has an overwhelming lead in national polls, 47.3 percentage points over his nearest competitor, Governor Ron DeSantis, in the Real Clear Politics average of national polls. Trump's leads in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina are 29.7 points, 27 points, and 30.5 points respectively, although the polling in those states is getting old, with the most recent polls measuring opinion about 3 weeks ago. But the basic fact is Trump is far, far ahead. He is the favorite to win the GOP nomination," end quote. And as true as all that is, the real realization we should actually be taking away from this is what the president of the Claremont Institute said in response to York. He says, quote, "With all due respect to Byron, one of the best political reporters in the game, the recent spate of Trump's coming dictatorship articles are better characterized as an information operation meant to soften the ground for more extra constitutional measures against Trump," end quote. And that is exactly right. It's also why they go to such great pains to repeat themselves endlessly, no matter how tiring it gets. Trump is Hitler. His supporters are domestic terrorists and insurrectionists. They're also Nazis. And you know what we do to Nazis? We punch them. We don't negotiate with them. It's all part of a psyop pushed by the national security state so that when prosecutors and judges and other powerful figures all deny President Trump and his supporters their constitutional rights, the readers of NPR can rest assured that that is what Nazis deserve, and that such a precedent could never be used against them because they're not Nazis after all. Joining us now to discuss is Charles Haywood, the primary author for and maximum leader of The Worthy House. Charles, thanks for being here tonight. I'm excited to talk to you.
I am very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Great. So as cathartic as these sound bites can be, nothing ever changes. And Ray knows every few months he needs to be used for sound bites, right, to play on Fox News. But then after that, these same Republicans, well, except maybe for Senator Hawley, will vote to give him, Chris Wray, all the money and spy tools his little heart could ever desire to use against the constituents of those same Republicans who greenlighted the funds. Do you think that may be the dirty little secret to this whole charade that we see in Congress and why nothing ever seems to change?
Well, there's a lot of dirty little secrets, I'm sure, some of which we are public and some of which are not. I guess that's the nature of secrets. But as you say, most of this is performative. I mean, there's a very few members of Congress, both in the Senate and the House, who don't, I think as someone else pointed out on Twitter, right after these kind of combative hearings, then socialize and interact with these people in a way that benefits them. And you saw Representative McCarthy, who is not one of these people, but is retiring, and he'll end up in a cushy job with interacting with all these people on a cordial social level. So yes, this is all performative.
And so then you've made a name for yourself talking about how we can actually best utilize the rights so we're not just stuck forever in the controlled opposition corner, which is where, you know, the traditional leadership of the party has kind of been spinning their wheels for a while. So what would be an actual vision for the future for a conservative right who actually wanted to make real change and not just keep doing this whole rigmarole over and over again?
Well, fundamentally, the problem is that the structures right now are so calcified that it's impossible for people who represent the majority of people in this country, or at least a substantial plurality, to actually achieve power. I mean, this, I'm not telling your viewers anything they don't know, but famously, the best example of this is that the Republican Party doesn't actually represent Republican voters. So the only way around that, short of something catastrophic, like a constitutional crisis that leads to a change in the Constitution, is to have that change either by a retrofit of the Republican Party, that's kind of the polite way of putting it, or by a third party. The third party has historical precedent. The Whigs died and the Republican Party took its place. I think people dismiss that too easily. And we'll see, for example, for a while, it seemed like Donald Trump would be denied the nomination. Maybe he would do something like that. That doesn't seem likely now, but you can certainly imagine something like that happening.